Oh, that's all good. My camera's up. Oh, that's a great start. The camera's not working, so let's add that quickly. There we go. Okay, with the magic of the internet, I resume. How's everyone? First of all, it's day 50 something of the lockdown. It feels like this thing has been going on forever. And so thank you very much for joining me. I know you could be anywhere in the world. Well, more accurately, you're at home, but you could be watching anything in the world right now. And while I know most of you are keeping side eyes on whatever you are watching on Netflix, or you're on Twitter, or doing whatever you do with your second screen, thank you for at least sharing a little bit of your attention to me. Just in the chat, thanks for those who are joining us for potentially the second time. Scores for the how you feeling lockdown? I think last time we were averaging, let's call it high sixes last time. I don't know, is that the same? Are people still feeling? Your beard looks like I feel. Yeah, it's a little bit ragged at this stage. Thanks, Bruce. So yeah, drop the scores in the chat. Let's see how you are. Feeling like a 7, I guess. Maybe because nothing much has changed. So I'm just trying to maintain the kind of status quo from last time. But let me know how you're feeling. I have started doing the worst thing possible, which is thinking about life after the lockdown, as in what I can't wait to do. Can't wait to have a haircut, for example. All the fast food. So I don't think they have to worry about boosting the economy. I'm certainly going to be spending a lot of money eating other people's food. Look, it's been great having home-cooked food while we're here in PE, but it's going to be nice to just not have to worry about eating anymore. I see there 5s and 6s. So scores feel like they've dropped a little bit. I need my nails done, Meg says. Yeah, that seems to be the sentiment, is just like want to go outside and just do the things we've missed. Last question, I guess, chances of it being extended. I'm kind of feeling like it's going to be extended after the 30th of May, 31st of May at least, or April, but that it's probably going to have reduced kind of stipulation. So we might have to be able to eat or send our kids to school. God, really need that to happen quickly. I love my son. Listen, let's just catch up from last week. I feel like I need to have one of those. Last week on Go Play Outside, we chatted a little bit about trying to treat life a little bit more like a game, in that these exciting times, like this COVID thing, need to be seen like features in a game. So just like in life, if this were a game, the graphics would be amazing, the story would be a little bit vague, the bosses would be incredibly overpowered, just like, if this were really a game. But I wanted to talk today a little bit about, I think, something a lot of parents worry about, especially when they see their kids gaming, is like, why is gaming so addictive? Why is it that we would so much rather spend hours and hours playing video games than doing our jobs, for example, depending on what your jobs are, of course. Why is it that you'd rather be worried about getting a high score than doing your homework, or beating mythical epic bosses than beating up your real boss? Once again, depends on what you do for a living. And so for a lot of people, it is the escapism. It is the fact that you can just leave your, mundane life behind and fight dragons and, do all that sort of, cool stuff that you only get to do in video games. For other people, it's the adrenaline rush. You can't beat the adrenaline surge you get from dropping a 7-letter word on a triple word score in Scrabble. Man, you can't beat that feeling. And for a lot of people, that's why they are addicted to games. But for me, because I'm just such a contrarian hipster type, the thing that I love most about games, in all honesty, is the control. I love just the sense of being in control that gaming gives you. And it's probably why I don't go in much for other recreational substance abuse, because a lot of those things reduce control. So drugs, alcohol, that sort of stuff, a lot of people, that's what they find so appealing about those things, is that the sense of control, or the need to feel in control is taken away. And so that's why they enjoy those substances. Whereas for me, as someone who loves control, as a control freak, drugs suck because you're out of control. And so the one drug that you love, that is control, you don't get. With gaming, obviously control's a big thing. I mean, let's be honest, they call it a controller for a reason. It's like a full-on part of the game. In fact, you can even go into the controls and set up how you want your controller to be controlled. You can change the button setups and the layouts to get even more control, because it feels like that exhibit meme. We're like, hey, we heard you like controls, so we put controls in your controls, so now you can control the way you control your controller. I think I got the meme right. But yeah, so control is a big part about gaming. And to be honest, there are very few games you can win without exerting some sense of control. You need to move Mario from one side of the stage to the other. You need to move the chess pieces. You need to, monopolize the Monopoly board to be able to win. You can't just sit there passively and win. And the only example really I can think of that maybe there was, I suppose it's a bit of a meme example for those who played Far Cry 4, was a game where the main protagonist has to, I think the whole mission starts, you have to take your mother's ashes to the top of this mountain. And you're in this kind of war-torn, it's supposed to look like a Nepal/northern India sort of country. And you get there and you eventually, you immediately swarmed by this militia, and you're chatting to the head dude, and he's like totally cool with you going to go, on this mission of taking your mother's ashes to this gravesite. Except that he then has to take this urgent call, and you sit there, and then you, obviously, because you get the sense that he's this bad dude, and you're hearing the call of this, like, a resistance group to come, leave, we're going to save you. You leave, and you start your mission. And, 15 to 20 hours later, you've had this epic quest, and, the game's done. But you can just sit there. He literally takes his phone call, comes back, apologizes for having taken so long, and being so, rude, leaving you at the dinner table. And then next thing, a cutscene plays, and his helicopter takes you straight to the gravesite, and you drop off the ashes, and the credits roll. Well done, you finished Far Cry 4 in 8 minutes. But I mean, I suppose we could allude back to last week's lesson. Not much of a game. You needed all that stuff to happen for you to actually have much of a game. But I think what I'm trying to talk about this week is the fact that you need to exert some sort of control. And that's just a rare example of how games, and a game where you don't. And, I know I mentioned the drugs and the alcohol and other kind of stuff that people might be addicted to, and I'm addicted to control. It's not that weird a thing. A lot of people are addicted to control. I'm not trying to defend control addiction as some sort of, well, everybody's doing it, but really we are addicted to control. From wanting to control the room temperature to wanting to control our children and through their education and just a healthy sprinkling of shame. To, wanting to control the fact that I can have an Avo in the middle of winter. Because if I fucking want smashed Avo in the middle of winter, you better know that the entire economy must bend over backwards to give me my Avo in the middle of winter. In fact, in a way, control has become a bit of a yardstick for almost progression of civilization. The more control we have, we almost see it as how much we've progressed. You think back to times when we used to follow animals around because we didn't know how to control them, and we didn't know how to, have agriculture. So we just, picked fruit and followed the fruit around. Just walked around, really not controlling anything, but just kind of like following things where they went. In the same sense as like we managed to control the weather through, air conditioning and the likes, having electricity at home when Eskom allows us to. So we found ways to be able to essentially get, progress through being able to control our environment. And you might say that, extrapolate that the future of the world, the purpose of the world is to try and control the universe. I'm sure a lot of people would see that as progress. But the thing is, catch, is that I feel in a very real way, we would be like a dog chasing a car. If we ever caught the car, we would not know what the hell to do with it. And in the same way as if we ever got absolute control, I don't know that we'd know what to do with it. I mean, can you imagine a day of like perfect control? You wake up at the exact time that you should in the morning, without having to worry about an alarm clock. You get up in your perfectly temperature controlled room and you go and have breakfasts sourced from, vegetables and things from across the world, all available all the time. Nothing's out of stock. You get in your car, there's always petrol, you drive to work, there's no traffic, every song you love is on the radio. You get to work. All your suggestions to the boss are amazing. Every project you try succeeds. You then go to the gym and all the machines are available and clean. You then decide to, grab something to eat. No queues. The Uber guy arrives and, I don't know, they've made some mistake on your order, so it's free. You go to a movie and it's full enough that there's a great environment and atmosphere, but no one's making noise and no one's on their cell phone. So it's just great. And you go home and it's just the perfect day. And that now makes 35 years and 7 weeks of perfect days in a row. And I guess the point is that we need a certain level of, friction. We need a certain level of chaos. We actually can't stand that much perfection. For those of you who remember the movie Stepford Wives, it's that kind of element where it kind of gets a little bit cringeworthy when everything keeps going right. We need a certain element of surprise, of ambition, things to look forward to. Otherwise, everything you attempt just succeeds. Back to last week's lesson, it's really just not an achievement if everything just kind of happens exactly how you planned it. And I think a lot of the tension in the world is really us trying to exert certain levels of chaos or control on our own lives and on each other. And so I know this is a very, very kind of like all over the place topic, but like, what does it really have to do with gaming? Well, to be honest, I started by saying that gaming gives us a lot of control, like of our character or whatever we're playing, whatever type of game it is. But the thing is about gaming is while it gives you a lot of control, it's very clear about what is not in control. If you take Mario, for example, I'm sure everyone's played a Mario game. When you're playing a Mario game, you know that you're in control of Mario. You control how he moves, how he jumps, what pickups, the star and the firepower and all that sort of stuff, what he picks up. But you know that you're not in control of the other things. You're not in control of gravity. You're not in control of the clock. You're not in control of the bad guys. Like, there are certain things that you control and certain things you don't. And I think that kind of distinction is the difference between kind of real life and gaming, is the fact that gaming makes very clear what is control, what is in control at least, and what is out of control. You're aware of your limits. And so it kind of reminds me of that whole serenity prayer. I don't know if you've heard it. It's one of those, it's the kind of idea that, dear heavenly power, whatever, allow me to understand, have the power to control the things I control. And I'm going to butcher this completely, but to understand the difference. And I think particularly if we think of something like this whole Corona thing, I think a lot of the tension, a lot of the stress people are going through is that all of a sudden the control that you thought you had, you're realizing that, holy shit, I didn't really control any of that. It's really surprising to me how many businesses and individuals must be as affected, but how many businesses seem like they're one bad month away from going completely bankrupt. Like, I've heard of plenty of businesses that are either shutting shop or getting rid of buttloads of staff or doing whatever, but how is it that they're 1 month away? So like all the stuff they had in control, all those board meetings about making sure the stocks, where it needs to be and the pricing and the marketing strategies and all that, all of a sudden some guy eats a bat and now you're out of business. And everyone who works for you is out of business. And all these safe bets, all these people who decided to not follow their dreams and become accountants and become doctors or lawyers. Don't get me wrong, if those were your dreams, if you dreamed of being an accountant, good for you. But it's this idea that you're playing the safe bet because at least you're in control, and now you're seeing how little control you actually have. So that really is, it's not meant to be a downer. I guess it's really just meant to be the idea that gaming, I think, allows one a certain idea. If I look at the people who seem to be the least stressed during this whole lockdown thing, you might joke it's because they get to be inside and playing video games all day, but I think in a very real way, gamers have experienced this before. I'm not talking about the zombie apocalypse that we've all played millions of games of. I'm talking about knowing what you're in control of and what you're not in control of, and just taking things day by day. And so that's the message of this particular chapter. Please, if you've enjoyed the video, please do like or comment. It obviously helps a lot. Me gauging kind of, the content, what you guys are liking. Obviously, it helps me go through the book and edit stuff. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm trying not to make these things go too long. I know we've all got plenty of other things we'd rather be watching at this time of night once the kids are in bed. But yeah, thanks very much. As always, I'm Gareth, and I will see you next week. Cheers.